6 months after the rescue, Ambassador Yu Park stood before the Galactic Council on the space station New Geneva. Representatives from dozens of species filled the great chamber, all waiting to hear what humanity proposed to do with the captured Krathari pirates. The children are safe and have recovered completely from their experience, Yu announced to the assembly. They have asked to speak on behalf of their former captors. A shocked murmur ran through the chamber. In the history of the Galactic Council, victims had never asked for mercy for their kidnappers. Young Bin, now 10 years old, walked to the speaking platform. He looked very small among all the tall alien representatives, but his voice was clear and strong. The guards were not all bad people, he said simply. Some of them were kind to us. They shared their food and kept us warm. They protected us from the mean captain at the end. Little Sue, now 6, stood beside him. They have families too, she added. One guard told me about his daughter. He missed her very much. The council representatives listened in amazement as the human children explained how some of their captors had shown them kindness. The kids asked that these guards be given a chance to become better people instead of being punished forever. Dr. Risong, a human psychologist who had studied the children's experience, presented her findings to the council. The children demonstrate a remarkable human trait, she explained. They can see the potential for goodness in others, even in their enemies. This is unprecedented, declared the Zephyrian representative. In our society, criminals are punished. They are not given opportunities for redemption. That is why they remain criminals, replied Ambassador Yu. Humans believe that most beings can change if given the chance and the right guidance. The Krathari representative, a proud warrior named Hextar, stood to address the assembly. His species had been pirates and raiders for centuries. The idea of change was foreign to them. You speak of redemption, Hextar said. But what evidence do you have that our people can become different? Ambassador Yu smiled and gestured toward the back of the chamber. Perhaps you should ask them yourself. 3 Krathari pirates entered the room. They were the guards who had protected the human children during the final rescue. They wore simple clothes instead of armor, and looked nervous but determined. The guard who had shared his food with the children stepped forward. His name was Krixan, and he had been a pirate for 15 years. The human children showed me something I had forgotten, he said quietly. They showed me kindness when they had no reason to be kind. They asked about my family when I was their captor. They made me remember what it felt like to be a father instead of just a raider. The second guard, Vexron, nodded in agreement. When the little one asked if I was hungry and tried to share her small portion of food with me, I realized I had lost my way. Children should not have to care for their captors, but these human young ones did it anyway. The third guard, Zulmek, spoke last. Working with human rehabilitation specialists, I have learned skills other than violence. I can repair ships, grow food, even teach younglings to read. I want to use these skills to help instead of harm. The council chamber was completely silent. No one had ever seen pirates voluntarily give up their way of life to become productive members of society. Director Wan Cho, who led the new human-alien rehabilitation program, stood to present the results of their work. In 6 months, we have successfully rehabilitated 47 former Krathari pirates. They now work as technicians, farmers, teachers, and peacekeepers. The recidivism rate is 0%. Impossible, declared the Thorian representative. Pirates cannot be reformed. They are criminals by nature. That is incorrect, replied Dr. Risong. Our research shows that most pirates become criminals due to desperation, lack of opportunities, or social pressure. When these factors are addressed, the criminal behavior stops. Young Bin asked to speak again. The council granted permission, curious to hear more from the remarkable human child. When we were prisoners, I was scared, Bin admitted, but I was also curious about the pirates. I wanted to understand why they took us. When I asked them questions, I learned that many of them were sad and lonely. They became pirates because they did not know how else to survive. Little Sue nodded. The guard with the broken claw told me he became a pirate to buy medicine for his sick mother. He never wanted to hurt anyone. Counselor Mei Ju, a human specialist in criminal rehabilitation, explained their approach to the council. Instead of simply punishing criminals, we address the root causes of their behavior. We provide education, job training, psychological support, and most importantly, hope for a better future. The Galactic Council was deeply impressed by the human program. Several species requested to implement similar rehabilitation systems in their own territories. But the most significant change came from the Crethari themselves. Hextar, their representative, stood before the assembly with a formal declaration. The Crethari nation officially renounces piracy and raiding, he announced. We will join the galactic community as peaceful members. The human children and their rehabilitation program have shown us a better path. Ambassador Yu Park felt tears in his eyes. What had started as a terrible crime against children had somehow transformed an entire species from raiders into peaceful citizens. 1 year after the incident, the first interspecies youth cultural exchange took place on the neutral space, Station Harmony Point. Children from dozens of species came together to learn about each other's cultures and play together. Young Bin, now 11, served as one of the human ambassadors. He was excited to meet young beings from across the galaxy. Little Sue at 7 had become famous for her ability to make friends with anyone, regardless of their species. Are you nervous about meeting alien children? A reporter asked Sue before the exchange began. No, Sue replied with her bright smile. Children are children everywhere. We all like to play and learn and make friends. The exchange was a huge success. Human children taught alien younglings Earth games like tag and hide and seek. Alien children shared their own traditions and stories. Language barriers meant nothing when it came to the universal language of play and laughter. The most touching moment came when Krixan, the former pirate who was now working as a security officer protecting the space station, watched human and Crethari children playing together. My daughter is among those children, he told young Bin. She is learning to be friends with the species I once considered enemies. Bin smiled. That's good. Friends are always better than enemies. Dr. Yan Kim, who had suffered terribly when her daughter was taken, now worked as the director of the Child Protection Initiative. The program ensured that no child of any species would ever again be harmed by criminals. The children taught us something important, she explained to a gathering of child protection specialists. They showed us that even in the darkest situations, kindness and understanding can create hope and change. Captain Jun Park, commander of the Sol Dawn, had been promoted to admiral and now led the Interspecies Security Force. His ships protected trade routes and kept families safe as they traveled between worlds. We learned that protecting children is not just about military strength, he told his officers. It is about creating a galaxy where all young ones can grow up safely and peacefully. The former pirate Lord Zexthan faced a different fate than his subordinates. He had shown no remorse for his crimes and continued to threaten violence even after capture. He was imprisoned for life, but even he was offered rehabilitation programs if he chose to participate. Some individuals cannot be changed, admitted Counselor May. But we never stop offering them the opportunity to become better people. 5 years later, young Bin was 16 and preparing to enter the Galactic Academy. He wanted to study diplomacy and interspecies relations. His experience as a child captive had taught him that understanding between different species was the key to peace. Little Sue, now 12, had decided she wanted to become a teacher. She planned to work with children from all species, helping them learn about each other and build friendships across cultural boundaries. Do you ever think about what would have happened if the pirates had never taken us? Sue asked Bin one day. Bin considered the question carefully. I think about it sometimes, he said. We went through something scary, but look what happened because of it. Pirates became peacekeepers. Enemies became friends. Children from different worlds now play together. So maybe it was worth it? Sue asked. The scary parts were not worth it, Bin replied. But what we built afterward, that was definitely worth it. The galaxy had learned an important lesson from the human children. Punishment alone could not create lasting peace, but kindness, understanding, and the offer of redemption could transform even the worst criminals into productive citizens. At the latest Galactic Council meeting, Ambassador Yu Park presented the final statistics from the Human-Alien Rehabilitation Program. Over 3,000 former criminals from 17 different species had been successfully rehabilitated. Crime rates in participating systems had dropped by 60%. The human approach to justice emphasizes healing over punishment, Yu explained to the assembly. When we address the causes of criminal behavior instead of simply responding to its effects, The Kestrel Nebula was a place of swirling gas clouds and crackling energy storms. Most species considered it too dangerous to enter. The electrical fields could destroy ship systems, and the dense gas made sensors almost useless. It was the perfect place for pirates to hide. Pirate Lord Zexthan guided his ship Bloodharvest deep into the nebula's heart. Around him, the space glowed with strange colors as energy danced between the gas clouds. He felt safer here. No military force would be crazy enough to follow him into this deadly maze. "Contact the buyers," he ordered his communications officer. "Tell them we have rare specimens ready for sale." But before the message could be sent, his sensor officer made a disturbing report. "Sir, I'm detecting multiple contacts around the nebula's edge." "Impossible," Zexthan replied. "No one follows ships into the Kestrel Nebula." "Sir, there are over 800 contacts. They're surrounding the entire nebula." Zexthan felt his blood turn cold. 800 ships was more than most entire fleets. Who could have that many vessels in one place? His question was answered when a calm voice came over all communication channels. It was Admiral Wan Jiang speaking from his flagship. "This is Admiral Wan Jiang of the Human Defense Force. We have surrounded the Kestrel Nebula. Pirate Lord Zexthan, you have our children. Release them immediately and surrender your ship." Zexthan looked at his crew. They were all staring at him with fear in their eyes. 800 human ships meant the largest military force anyone had ever seen. And they had come for 42 children. "You cannot enter the nebula," Zexthan broadcast back. "The energy storms will destroy your ships. Leave now or we will be forced to defend ourselves." There was a long pause. Then Admiral Jiang's voice returned, and something in his tone made every pirate on the ship shiver with fear. "Pirate Lord Zexthan, you have 10 minutes to surrender our children unharmed. After that, we will demonstrate why humans are classified as a death world species. This is your only warning." The communication channel went silent. Zexthan and his crew waited, hoping the humans would realize the nebula was too dangerous to enter. They were wrong. Major Huan Ko led the first wave of assault ships into the nebula. His ship was specially modified to handle extreme conditions. Behind him came 50 more vessels, all crewed by humans who had trained their entire lives for impossible missions. The energy storms that would have fried the electronics of most ships barely slowed the human vessels. The dense gas that made normal sensors useless was overcome by human technology designed for the worst environments in the galaxy. "Contact ahead," Ko's sensor officer reported. "Large ship, dead ahead in the center of the storm." Ko smiled grimly. The pirates had thought the nebula would protect them. They did not understand that humans considered dangerous environments to be just another workplace. Captain Yun Bei commanded the boarding teams. His soldiers were the best of the best, trained for assaults in every possible condition. Today they had one simple mission: get the children and bring them home safely. "Remember," he told his teams over the communication system, "those are our kids in there. Every parent in human space is counting on us. We do not fail." Lieutenant Narration prepared her medical equipment. She was a combat medic who specialized in treating children. She had studied the effects of trauma on young minds and had medicines ready to help the kids recover from their ordeal. "How are we getting aboard?" she asked Captain Bay. "Direct assault," he replied. "Fast and overwhelming. We hit them so hard they don't have time to threaten the children." Corporal Gil Moon checked his demolitions equipment one final time. He was responsible for blasting through the pirate ship's armor to create entry points for the boarding teams. It was dangerous work, but Gil had volunteered for the most risky assignments. "Ready when you are?" "Captain," he reported, aboard Bloodharvest. The pirates watched their sensors in horror as human ships emerged from the energy storms like ghosts. The nebula was supposed to be impassable, but the humans moved through it as if it were empty space. "How are they doing this?" one officer asked in panic. "They're insane," another replied. No sane species would risk their ships in these conditions. Zexthan realized he had made a terrible mistake. He had thought like a normal being when dealing with humans. But humans were not normal. They were from a death world that had made them capable of surviving anything, and when their children were threatened, they became something even more dangerous. In the children's prison, young Ben felt the ship shaking as something hit the hull. He gathered all 42 children into the center of the room away from the walls. "Everyone stay calm," he said. "Our families are here." Little Sue looked excited rather than scared. "Are we going home now?" "Very soon," Ben promised. The other children huddled together, but they were not afraid. They trusted Bin and they believed in their families. Even the youngest ones knew that humans always protected their children. The first explosion echoed through the ship as Corporal Moon's charges blew holes in the pirate vessel's armor. Immediately, human soldiers poured through the openings like a flood of determination and fury. The pirates tried to fight back, but they were overwhelmed in seconds. The humans moved with perfect coordination as if they shared one mind. Every movement had a purpose. Every action brought them closer to the children. Captain Bay led his team toward the prisoner sections while other teams secured the rest of the ship. The pirates who tried to resist found themselves facing warriors who fought with the desperate strength of parents protecting their young. "Surrender now, and you will be treated fairly," Bay announced over the ship's communication system. "Threaten the children and face the consequences." Most pirates threw down their weapons immediately. They had heard stories about what humans did to anyone who hurt their kids. Those stories were not pleasant. Sexton made one last desperate choice. He grabbed a weapon and ran toward the children's prison. If he could threaten them, maybe he could negotiate his escape. He burst into the room where the children were held and pointed his weapon at them. But what he found there shocked him into hesitation. The 42 human children were sitting calmly in neat rows. Young Bin stood in front of them like a small general protecting his troops. Little Sue held the hand of a younger child who might have been scared. But the most surprising thing was that several of his own guards were standing between him and the children. "Sir," one of the guards said nervously, "maybe we should just surrender. The children have not tried to hurt anyone." "They fixed our equipment," said another guard. "They've been kind to us." "The little one asked if I had children of my own," added a third guard, his voice sad. "She made me remember my daughter back home." Zexathan stared at his crew in disbelief. The human children had somehow turned his own guards against him. Not through violence or threats, but through simple kindness and curiosity. Before he could react, Captain Bay and his soldiers appeared behind him. The human warriors moved like lightning, disarming Zexathan before he could threaten anyone. "Children, are you all right?" Captain Bay asked gently. Young Bin nodded. "We're fine, sir. Some of the guards were nice to us." Little Sue pointed to one of the Krathari guards. "He shared his food with us when we were hungry." Captain Bay looked at the alien guard with surprise. In all his years of military service, he had never seen pirates show kindness to their prisoners. Lieutenant Narration entered the room and immediately began checking the children for injuries. To her amazement, they were all healthy and in good spirits. They had not just survived their captivity, they had somehow thrived. "How do you feel?" she asked little Sue. "Hungry," Sue replied honestly. "And excited to see our families. Are they here too?" "They're waiting for you on the ships outside," Nara said with a smile. The rescue was completed without a single child being harmed. As the human soldiers led the kids to safety, something unprecedented happened. Several of the Krathari guards asked to speak with Captain Bay. "Sir," one guard said nervously, "the children showed us kindness even though we were their captors. We want to surrender properly and ask for your mercy." Bay studied the alien's face. He saw genuine regret there, not just fear of punishment. "The children did this?" he asked. "They treated us like people, not monsters," the guard replied. "They made us remember who we used to be before we became pirates." As the human fleet prepared to return home with the rescued children, Admiral Wan Zhang received reports that amazed him. Not only had they saved their kids, but several pirates had voluntarily surrendered and asked for rehabilitation instead of punishment. "Sir," Colonel Hana Choi reported, "the children somehow convinced their guards to protect them from their own captain." "I've never seen anything like it," Wan Zhang smiled. It was the first real smile he had felt since his own daughter's death years ago. "That's what human children do," he said quietly. "They find the good in everyone, even their enemies. They're our greatest weapon and our greatest hope." In the medical bay of the rescue ship, young Bin and little Sue sat with the other children, eating real food and wearing clean clothes. They were tired but happy. "Are we heroes?" Sue asked. Bin thought about it carefully. "No," he said finally. "We're just kids. But we showed the bad guys that being kind is better than being mean. Maybe that's important too." Captain Jin Yu moved his stealth ship through the dark between stars. His vessel was painted black and designed to be invisible to most sensors. Behind him followed 12 more stealth ships, all hunting for the pirates who had taken the children. "Contact ahead," his sensor officer whispered. Krathari vessel moving fast toward the outer spiral. Jin studied the readings on his screen. It was not the main pirate ship, but it might know where the children were being taken. His ship surrounded the Krathari vessel like ghosts in the darkness. "This is Captain Jin Yu of the Human Defense Force," he broadcast on all frequencies. "Stop your engines and prepare to be boarded." The pirate ship tried to run, but human stealth ships were faster. Within minutes, Jin's boarding teams had captured the vessel and its crew. Under questioning, the pirates revealed they were part of the same raid that had taken the children. "Where is Zexthan taking them?" Jin demanded. The captured pirate leader was defiant at first, but when he looked into Jin's eyes, he saw something that made him very afraid. The human was completely calm, but there was a cold anger burning inside him that promised terrible things for anyone who hurt children. "The Kestrel Nebula," the pirate whispered. "He plans to sell them at the secret market there." Jin smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "Thank you for your cooperation." Commander Na Lim coordinated the main attack fleet from her command ship. On her screens, she could see hundreds of human vessels spread across a vast area of space. They were using tactics that confused and frightened the Krathari pirates. Normal space battles followed predictable patterns. Ships stayed in safe areas and used long-range weapons, but humans were different. They flew through asteroid fields and radiation storms as if they were empty space. They appeared where no sane being would go and attacked from impossible directions. "Report from Hunting Group 7, her communications officer announced. They found 3 more Krathari ships hiding in the Titan asteroid belt. All captured. Hunting Group 12 destroyed a pirate base on the dead moon of Xeris. No children found, but they rescued 40 prisoners from 6 different species." Nalim nodded. The humans were not just looking for their own children. They were destroying the entire Krathari pirate network. The message was clear. If you take human children, your whole organization will be eliminated. Lieutenant Sam Han flew his fighter through a field of space debris that would have torn apart most ships. His squadron followed him in perfect formation, using the wreckage as cover while they hunted for pirates. "Target spotted," Sam announced. Krathari cruiser hiding behind the big asteroid. The pirates thought they were safe in their hiding place. The debris field was too dangerous for normal ships to enter, but human pilots trained in the worst conditions in the galaxy. This was just another day's work for them. Sam's squadron attacked from 6 different directions at once. The pirates never had a chance to fight back. Within minutes, another Krathari ship was captured and its crew was being questioned about the children's location. Sergeant Min An prepared her ground assault team for boarding actions. She had trained for situations like this her whole career, but this mission was different. This was personal for every human involved. "Remember," she told her soldiers, "we're not just military anymore. We're every parent who ever loved a child. We're every brother and sister who ever protected their family. Those pirates made this personal when they took our kids." Her team nodded. They understood. Some of them had children of their own. Others remembered being children themselves, feeling safe because they knew their families would always protect them. The Krathari had violated something sacred to humans. Aboard the Blood Harvest, Pirate Lord Zexthan was getting more worried every hour. His communication systems brought him terrible news from across Krathari space. Human ships were everywhere, hunting down every pirate vessel they could find. They destroyed the base on Korak Station. One of his officers reported. Completely wiped out. No survivors. The hidden shipyard in the Veil Nebula is gone too. How did they even find it? 7 of our supply ships have been captured in the last day. The humans are interrogating all the crews. Zexthan had been a pirate for 30 years. He had raided hundreds of ships and fought many different species. But he had never seen anything like this. The humans were not just angry. They were systematic, thorough, and absolutely relentless. The worst part was how they fought. Other species tried to minimize their losses and fight carefully. Humans seemed willing to take any risk, suffer any hardship, and pay any price to get their children back. They flew through space that should have killed them and attacked in ways that seemed suicidal, but somehow worked. In the children's prison, young Bin and his friends continued their quiet rebellion. They had learned more of the alien language and could now understand most of what the guards said. What they heard made them excited. The tall guard with the broken claw is scared. Little Sue whispered to Bin. He keeps talking about human ships everywhere. The one with the scar said they lost contact with 3 other ships today. Added a boy named Jay who was good at listening to. Conversations, Ben smiled. He had never doubted that their families would come for them. Humans always protected their children. It was one of the most important rules of being human. The children had also continued their strange effect on their captors. Several guards had begun bringing them extra food or blankets. When little Sue asked a guard if he had children of his own, the pirate had looked sad and walked away without answering. "I think some of them don't want to hurt us," Sue told Ben privately. "They look unhappy when they see us." "Good," Ben replied. "That means they're still thinking like people, not just pirates." The children had discovered that many of the Krithari guards were not evil by choice. Some had become pirates because they had no other way to survive. Others had been forced into it by circumstances beyond their control. The children's kindness and curiosity were making the guards remember what they used to be before they became criminals. This made Zexthon even more nervous. His crew was supposed to be hard and ruthless, but the human children were somehow making them soft and caring. It was not good for discipline. Meanwhile, Admiral Wanjiang studied the tactical displays on his flagship. The net was closing around the pirates. Human ships had cut off most escape routes to the outer spiral. Intelligence reports suggested the main pirate ship was heading for the Kestrel Nebula. "How long before we reach the nebula?" he asked his navigation officer. 18 hours at maximum speed, sir." "And the pirates?" "They'll arrive about 6 hours before us, sir." "But we'll have them surrounded," Wanjiang nodded. The Kestrel Nebula was a dangerous place full of gas clouds and electrical storms. Most species avoided it, but the pirates thought it would hide them from pursuit. They did not understand that humans had been exploring dangerous places for centuries. Colonel Hana Choi prepared her special operations teams for the final assault. These were the best soldiers humanity had produced, trained for the most difficult missions. But today they were not just soldiers. They were parents, siblings, and protectors of the innocent. "The target is a Krithari heavy cruiser," she briefed her teams. 42 children aboard, ages 4 to 12. "Our job is to get them out safely." "What about the pirates?" asked one of her team leaders. Hana's expression was grim. "That depends on whether they surrender peacefully or try to hurt the children." Her soldiers understood. If the pirates gave up without a fight, they would be treated as prisoners of war. But if they threatened the children, they would face the full fury of humanity's finest warriors fighting to protect their young. In the cold metal room of the pirate ship, young Ben gathered all the children around him. He could feel that something was about to happen. The guards were more nervous than usual. Strange sounds came from other parts of the ship. "Listen, everyone," he said quietly. "I think our families are very close now. When they come, stay together and do exactly what the grown-ups tell you. Everything is going to be okay." Little Sue raised her hand. "What if the pirates try to hurt us when our families get here?" Ben looked at her seriously. "They can try, but they don't understand something important about humans. We never give up when it comes to protecting our children. Never." Outside in space, hundreds of human ships moved through the darkness like hunting wolves. They had traveled impossible distances, survived deadly hazards, and overcome every obstacle to reach this moment. The children were almost home. The emergency message from Sol Dawn reached the human military base on Mars first. Admiral Wanjiang was drinking his morning coffee when the communication officer burst into his office. "Sir, we have a code red emergency. Pirates have taken children." Admiral Jiang had seen many terrible things in his 40 years of military service. He had fought in 3 wars and commanded fleets in dangerous missions. But nothing made his blood run cold like hearing that someone had taken human children. "How many?" he asked, already reaching for his uniform jacket. 42 children, sir. Krithari pirates attacked the passenger ship Sol Dawn. The children are between 4 and 12 years old." Wanjiang closed his eyes for a moment. He remembered his own daughter who had died in a pirate attack 15 years ago. He had never forgotten the pain of losing her. Now 42 families were feeling that same terrible fear. "Send the alert to every human ship in space," he ordered. "Military, civilian, merchant, everyone. Tell them what happened. Tell them we need all hands." The message spread through human space like fire. On every planet, every space station, every ship, humans stopped what they were doing when they heard the news. Children had been taken. Their children. Colonel Hana Choi was training new soldiers when the alert came through her communication device. She read the message twice to make sure she understood correctly. Then she looked at her young trainees. "Training is over," she announced. "We have real work to do." Captain Dano was commanding a destroyer on patrol near the outer planets. His ship was small but fast and well-armed. When he got the message, he immediately changed course toward Sector 7G. "Sir," his communications officer asked, "we're supposed to patrol this area for another week." "Not anymore," Dan replied. "Someone took our children. Nothing else matters now." Major Su Kang worked in military intelligence, studying enemy movements and planning operations. When the alert reached her desk, she dropped everything else she was doing. Finding those children became her only mission. All across human space, the same thing was happening. Military ships abandoned their patrol routes. Merchant captains armed their cargo vessels with whatever weapons they could find. Even old retired veterans climbed into ancient ships they had not flown in years. Within 6 hours, over 300 ships were moving toward the last known location of the Krithari pirates. By the end of the first day, that number had grown to 800. It was the largest volunteer fleet in human history. Meanwhile, aboard the Krithari ship Blood Harvest, Pirate Lord Zexthon was starting to worry. The human children were not acting like captured prisoners should act. They were too calm, too organized, too smart. Young Bin had divided the 42 children into groups. The older ones took care of the younger ones. They shared food equally and made sure everyone stayed warm in the cold metal prison. But more than that, they were learning. Little Sue had an amazing memory. She watched the guards and learned their schedules. She knew when they changed shifts, when they brought food, and when they left the area unguarded. She told everything to Bin, who made careful plans. "Guard shift happens every 4 hours," Sue whispered to the other children. "The tall one with the scar comes at breakfast time. The one with the broken claw comes at dinner." The children had also figured out how to understand some of the alien language. They listened carefully when the pirates talked and began to learn what different words meant. Within 2 days, they could understand basic commands and simple conversations. This made the Krithari guards very nervous. Most captured creatures became more frightened as time passed. These human children seemed to become more confident and capable every day. The pirates tried to separate the children to make them easier to control. But when they moved Bin to a different room, all the other children began to cry loudly. When they moved Sue, the children refused to eat. When they tried to separate any child from the group, the others became upset. They worked together like a pack, one guard told Zexthon. "We cannot control them if we split them up, but together they are too organized." Zexthon had never seen anything like it. Other species' young ones were helpless when taken from their families. These human children seemed to become stronger when they worked together. The worst part was how they looked at their captors. The children were not filled with hate or fear. Instead, they seemed curious about the pirates. They asked questions that made the guards uncomfortable. "Why do you take people?" Little Sue asked one guard during food time. "Don't you have families too?" "Are you hungry?" Bin asked another guard. "You look thin. Do pirates not eat enough?" "Your claws are smaller than I thought they would be," a 7-year-old named Yu said to a particularly scary-looking pirate. "Are you still growing?" These questions confused and worried the Krithari. They were used to being feared. Having small human children show concern for their well-being was disturbing in ways they could not explain. Reports began coming in from other Krithari ships about strange human behavior. Human military vessels were appearing in impossible places, using navigation routes through dangerous space that should have killed anyone who tried them. "They're not following normal space lanes," reported one pirate captain. "They're cutting straight through asteroid fields and radiation zones. How are they surviving?" "Their ships are operating in conditions that would destroy our vessels," said another. "They're treating deadly space hazards like minor inconveniences." Admiral Wanjiang studied the reports from his flagship. The Krithari had a head start, but humans knew this part of space better than anyone. They had been exploring dangerous areas for decades, finding ways to travel through regions other species considered impossible to cross. "Split the fleet into hunting groups," he ordered Colonel Hana Choi. "Use every shortcut we know. Cut them off before they reach the outer spiral." Captain Dano's destroyer was part of the advance group. They used a dangerous route through a binary star system that most species would never attempt. The radiation and gravity fields were deadly, but human ships were built tough, and their crews were trained to handle extreme conditions. Major Su Kang worked with intelligence teams to track the pirates' likely destinations. She knew the Krithari would try to sell the children to collectors in the lawless outer spiral regions. But to get there, They would have to pass through areas where humans could intercept them. Back on Blood Harvest, the children continued their quiet resistance. They had repaired broken equipment in their prison using their small fingers to reach places the pirates could not access. They had solved technical problems that had been bothering the ship's crew for months. The small ones fixed our food preparation unit. One confused guard reported. It has been broken for weeks. They made it work better than it ever did before. Young Ben had organized the children into teams. Some watched the guards and learned their patterns. Others studied the ship's systems and found ways to help. A few worked on escape plans, though Ben was careful not to try anything too dangerous. "We wait," he told the others. "Our families are coming." "I can feel it," little Sue nodded seriously. "When they get here, will the pirates try to fight them?" Ben looked at the armed guards and the thick metal walls around them. Then he smiled. "They can try," he said quietly, "but they don't understand what happens when you take human children. They're about to learn." In space around them, hundreds of human ships were closing in. The largest rescue operation in galactic history was underway. And for the first time since capturing the children, Pirate Lord Zexthan began to wonder if he had made a terrible mistake. The passenger ship Sol Dawn moved quietly through space. Inside, families slept peacefully as they traveled to their new home on a distant planet. Captain June Park walked through the halls checking on his passengers. He had done this journey many times before. The ship carried 2,400 people, including many children who were excited about starting new lives. Dr. Yan Kim sat in the medical bay, reading reports about the colony they were heading to. Her 8-year-old daughter Han was sleeping in their cabin nearby. Yan smiled, thinking about how excited Han had been earlier, talking with other children about what their new home would look like. Commander Ho Lee watched the security screens from his station. Everything looked normal. Space was quiet and peaceful. The nearest danger was supposed to be days away. Ho felt good about their safety. He had been protecting passenger ships for 15 years and never lost anyone. Without warning, red lights began flashing everywhere. The ship shook violently as something hit them. Ho jumped to his feet and ran to the main controls. On his screens, he saw ships surrounding them. They were long and dark with sharp edges. Pirates. All hands to battle stations. Captain Jun called over the speakers. But it was too late. The pirate ships had weapons much stronger than anything on the passenger ship. Blue energy beams hit the Sol Dawn again and again. The ship's shields failed quickly. "They're using stun weapons," Ho reported to Captain Jun. "They want to take prisoners, not kill us." In the passenger areas, people woke up scared and confused. Parents grabbed their children and tried to find safe places to hide. But the pirates were already inside the ship. They had teleported aboard using advanced technology. The Krithari pirates were tall and thin with gray skin and sharp claws. They moved through the ship quickly, stunning anyone who got in their way. Their leader was called Zexthan. He was bigger than the others and wore armor covered in symbols showing how many ships he had captured. "Find the valuable ones," Zexthan ordered his crew. "Take the young ones. They will bring good prices in the outer spiral." The pirates moved through the family sections of the ship. They found 42 human children and stunned them with their weapons. The children fell asleep immediately. The pirates also took jewelry, money, and anything else that looked expensive. Dr. Yeon woke up to find her daughter missing. She ran through the ship calling Han's name but found only other crying parents. Commander Ho tried to fight the pirates, but their weapons were too strong. Captain Jun could only watch as his ship was robbed and his passengers' children were taken. Young Bin was 9 years old and one of the first to wake up on the pirate ship. He found himself in a large metal room with all the other captured children. Some were still sleeping from the stun weapons. Others were waking up and starting to cry. "Don't cry," Bin said quietly to a little girl named Sue who was only 5 years old. "We need to be smart." Sue wiped her eyes and nodded. She was scared but tried to be brave like Bin. Around them, the other children slowly woke up. There were kids from age 4 to 12, all confused and frightened. The pirate ship was very different from their passenger ship. Everything was made of dark metal and sharp edges. Strange lights blinked on the walls. The air smelled bad and felt cold. Through small windows, they could see they were moving through space very fast. Krithari guards stood outside their prison room. They had never captured human children before. Most other species young would cry and hide when taken by pirates. But these human children were different. Bin stood up and looked around the room carefully. He counted all the children and made sure everyone was okay. Sue helped him check on the younger ones. Soon all 42 children were awake and sitting together. "Listen, everyone," Bin said in a quiet voice. "We need to stay together. No one goes anywhere alone. We look out for each other." The children nodded. Even the youngest ones understood. Sue raised her small hand. "What do we do now?" she asked. Bin thought for a moment. "We watch, we learn, and we wait for our families to come get us." The Krathari guards outside heard the children talking but didn't understand their language. They expected crying and screaming. Instead, they heard quiet planning and organization. This made them nervous. Pirate Lord Zexthan came to look at his prizes. He walked into the prison room expecting to see frightened, helpless young ones. Instead, he found 42 pairs of eyes watching him carefully. The children sat in neat rows, the older ones protecting the younger ones. "You will be sold to collectors who want exotic pets," Zexthan told them through a translator device. "Behave and you will not be hurt." Young Bin stood up slowly. He was not very tall, but he looked right at the pirate lord without fear. "Our families will come for us," Bin said clearly. "You should let us go now," Zexthan laughed. "Your families are far away. No one knows where you are." Little Sue stood up next to Bin. "They'll find us," she said in her small voice. "Humans always find their children." Something in the way she said it made Zexthan feel uncomfortable. He had captured young ones from many species before. They always gave up hope quickly, but these human children seemed completely sure their families would come. It was not what he expected. The pirate lord left the room, but he kept thinking about what the children had said. His crew was already planning where to sell them. Rich collectors in the outer spiral paid huge amounts for rare young ones from new species. Back on the Sol Dawn, Captain Jun sent out emergency signals to all human ships. The message was short but terrible. 42 children taken by Krathari pirates. Last seen heading to Sector 7G, we could not protect them. Dr. Yan sat in the ruins of her medical bay and cried. Commander Ho stood looking out at the empty space where the pirate ships had disappeared. All over the ship, parents held each other and wept for their stolen children. But they did not know that their message was already racing through space faster than light. Soon, every human in the galaxy would know what had happened. And when humans learn that their children are in danger, they stop being peaceful explorers and colonists. They become something much more dangerous. The hunt was about to begin.